In Ricardio the Heart Guy, Princess Bubblegum gets brutally played. But how did a walking, talking human heart completely dazzle a princess? If you remember the basic plot, you'll remember that Bubblegum was impressed by Ricardio's display of intellect, only to be taken off guard. But there's a dark subtlety to Ricardio's story that makes it criminally underrated. More on that later. The episode opens with Finn and Jake rescuing Bubblegum from Ice King yet again. In gratitude, Bubblegum throws a party. When Finn and Jake arrive at the party, rather than being celebrated, they find a newcomer at the center of everyone's attention. The bright red newcomer is wowing everyone, giving LSP an amazing and completely consensual best friend massage. When Bubblegum arrives, LSP immediately rushes over to introduce her to the newcomer, whose name LSP doesn't even know. The newcomer, Ricardio, immediately wows Bubblegum with charm and scientific jargon, and she's keen to learn what he knows. Suspicious of Ricardio, Finn ropes Jake into a stakeout. The pair spot Ricardio going into an alley to beat up Ice King. Finn confronts Ricardio, who gloats that his plan is almost complete. Convinced the smug heart will attack Bubblegum, Finn attacks Ricardio. Bubblegum arrives just in time to see the attack, once Bubblegum has reprimanded Finn and taken away Ricardio to patch him up. Ice King drags himself out of the alley and tells Finn the truth, that his attempt to cast a spell on Bubblegum's heart backfired, and Ice King's heart burst out of his chest as a new being, resolved to cut out Bubblegum's heart and marry it.
Meanwhile, back at the palace.
Luckily, Finn finds Ricardio just in time to stop his nefarious scheme. Bubblegum apologizes to Finn, admitting she was entranced by Ricardio's intellect, but his knowledge on plantoids was actually pretty weak. Ice King shows up just in time to reclaim his heart, stuffing Ricardio back inside his body, and it all ends happily ever after. Ricardio was more than a typical cartoon schemer. His detailed plot followed a pattern often effectively used by real-life manipulators. Love bombing is a technique used to get close to a target quickly. In her book about dealing with toxic people, It's Not You, Dr. Ramani Durvasula describes love bombing as involving excitement, connection, and constant need to be with you. She notes in her book that in getting dazzled, you might not slow down enough to notice the person, who is able to present themselves as what you thought you wanted for long enough to get you on the hook, and then the switch happens. In other words, they create a persona that fits your desires to draw you in. But this persona won't last forever, and eventually you'll see their nastier side. Maybe when they try to gouge out your heart with a broken bottle, for example. In Ricardio's case, he has more than just a good persona. In fact, his love bombing is exceptionally skilled. This talking blood pump has at least two key traits that effective manipulators use to love bomb: charm and charisma. Let's turn back to my favorite doctor. She notes in her book It's Not You that charm is the psychological cologne that manifests in compliments, storytelling, short-term attentiveness, and impeccable manners. When the charm seems magnetic, compelling, or everyone is drawn to it, that is where you see charisma. Examples of charisma are when someone appears visionary or is clearly a great performer. Ricardio is a classic manipulator. He is not just charming and charismatic, he has no patience for boring minutiae like getting to know someone before deciding on their importance to him. Remember, he was giving LSP a best friend massage before she even knew his name. That was an early hint that he is actually extremely shallow. Ricardio doesn't really use much intelligence in this episode. Rather, he uses his charm and charisma to manipulate people into believing that he is intelligent and trustworthy. Also, he can work his Demented scheme to cut out Bubblegum's heart and marry it. Unfortunately, Ricardio's low cunning effortlessly outdid Bubblegum's natural intellect. And that's the dark subtlety of this episode. Ricardio the Heart Guy shows how cunning, confidence, and charm can be effective tools of manipulation, even when used by someone who is dumb as a brick. That wraps up my thoughts about Ricardio the Heart Guy. If you enjoyed my take on the most villainous muscular organ in cartoon history, you can help the channel by liking and subscribing. Thank you to those of you who have subscribed already. Have a great week, embrace the weird, and thank you for watching.